4 o'clock in Radio Cairo. This is World of Info. My name is Dr. Amr Mabrouk. Dua Muhammad is at the control, and we're coming live from Studio 3, and you can definitely reach us through our direct line 257-89407. And today we have the great pleasure and honor to have with us His Excellency Ambassador of Vietnam, Ambassador Kong, who has served as ambassador of his country in Romania and had diplomatic posts in Poland, China, Sweden, with a very lively career and a great experience, and his study of political science and of environmental of international relations back in Vietnam. Definitely he's the gentleman to talk to us today about Vietnam. Excellency, it's a great pleasure and honor to have you with us, and thank you very much for coming again to our radio program.
Thank you very much. Very honored to be here and to say something with the Egyptian people here in Egypt, with my knowledge about the international relation and also about Vietnam.
Of course. Well, nothing better than to start our program with a Vietnamese song.
Yes.
And a multinational lady who is living in France. She's Vietnamese and she's living in France. She sings trilingual. She sings in French, in English, and in Japanese. And this beautiful song is Hello Vietnam,
yes,
right?
Yes.
It's very matching. And Vietnam is one of the most friendly, one of the friendliest countries to Egypt. Egypt has been always a very good friend of Vietnam, and it is, as we always say, Vietnam, like Egypt, has been always the victim of geography, because Vietnam is lying in the easternmost country in the Southeast Asian Indochina Peninsula. It has a very strategic position, and keeps it with a lot of important and mammoth, if we may use, neighbors like China to the north, and other friendly countries that have been involved in the same fate, Laos and Cambodia to the west, and shares maritime borders with Thailand through the Gulf of Thailand, and the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia. And of course this country has huge population like us. It has almost 96 million inhabitants. So we always have to start from, as President de Gaulle once said, it is very important to start from geography, because geography will make you understand politics, understand life, and understand about people. So we're talking about geography. Vietnam lies in the easternmost part of the Indochina Peninsula, and having a huge population of 96 million. So this is, for some people would say, this is a big problem. And for some people, other people, I think like the Vietnamese people, and like you, sir, think that this is a blessing. Tell us about that.
That is, you mentioned all the very important geography position of Vietnam in Southeast Asia. And we think the same, Vietnam and Egypt is the same position in the area. Very important. I can mention that Vietnam play very important geography position in that area, because you see that the East Sea is very, very important lie with the sea. Yeah, that is connecting lie between the Asian and Europe, and almost the transportation on the sea from Korea, from Japan, from China, go to Europe or go to the India Ocean. Most the products are going on that route. So that is very important routes in that area.
So it's a blessing, right?
Yes,
in spite of
course,
the beginning.
Starting with the first one is the very important position on geography.
Yes.
And of course the second one I want to mention is the very important position with the neighboring country. You mentioned we have neighboring countries in the north with China.
Yes.
We have with the Laos, Cambodia on the west, and of course we have the neighboring country by the sea with Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia. So you see that is also for the position is also very important, because most of the country, like from Thailand or from Laos or Cambodia, transfer to another country by the sea should be go across to our country.
Yes.
So that is also very important.
So the geography is important and the population is important.
Yes, yes.
This, I mean, we have 96 million people. For sometimes
Yeah.
people would look at 96 million people and say, wow, 96 mouths to feed.
Yeah.
Or 96 million brains to think.
Yeah.
Or 90, or 180
Yeah.
or 192 hands to work.
Yeah.
So how do you look at it, sir?
Oh, you see that the population is it's also too high, right? 9.96 up to now. We are going to reach 100. Like
Yes.
Same the number of Egypt.
Yes.
It's the same. We are the same population.
Yes.
And of course we have the more than 56 minority people in our country. Different culture, different, and we have many influent culture from other country. Because we have the number of the minority people. The culture from China, and you can easily find out the country from India in our country, and you can easily find out the French culture in Vietnam. So we have the mixed culture in our country.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
And that is one. Also, I can tell you that is very important for the people to easily, deeply integration to the world.
this is an important point because you have just mentioned, sir, that there is no what we call try to not to be having any racial discrimination. So we have to accept the idea that Vietnam in the 20th century has seen a very hard times. I mean, from the start there was the war of independence from the French in 1945, onward to 1953 with the famous accidents and the famous atrocities that happened there, and after that the division between North and South, and this was a huge problem. Even one of the generals, the American generals, said we're going to bomb Vietnam to the Stone Age. General Westmoreland, and this was one of the most famous generals in the United States, and he had a lot of culture background. I was stunned to read this statement from his, because he had great education in West Point and he was a distinguished officer. And even after leaving Vietnam, he became the chief of American staff.
Yeah.
So somebody like that, and saying such a strange statement, and of course to stop an offensive, Tet offensive, was really unbelievable. But there was a unification, and the North and the South became one country in 1976, and in 1986, I think this is the most important year for Vietnam, because reform was made.
Yeah.
People said we cannot live, the leadership said that we cannot live on the past, because the past is not going to feed the Vietnamese people,
Yeah.
and they can revolt. We're going to live in the future. So although communism is still there, but definitely you have an open market. You decided to make a reform, and decided to improve relations with the countries that you had with them wars. So you have had strong ties with the United States of America, strong ties with China that invaded you in 1979, and very good relations with both Koreans. Right? So,
Yes.
so tell us about that. I mean, how did you were able as Vietnamese to sort that out, not to live in the past and head for the future and forget all the animosities? This is quite a difficult thing to be made in the same generation, because this generation is the generation that has seen all the hard times and has seen the war, but yet they have acted differently and decided to turn the page. Was it easy to turn the page?
It's not easy like we talk. It's also difficulty. But I back to the first idea I gave you, the important position. That's why the Vietnam has very important position. So that's why we face many invaders from our side.
Yes.
Yeah, and divided our country in two. But lucky for us, because you know that in 1930. We have, under the leadership of President Ho Chi Minh, one of the famous people, you know, and established the Communist Party of Vietnam.
Yes, but he was very well educated. I mean, he was educated in France, and he has a degree from there. So he stayed for some years in France. He was not just a peasant from somewhere, but he was a very educated, cultured man, right?
Yes. He traveled a lot in the world and get many experience even from Egypt. You know that
he visited
3 times in visit Egypt already.
Yes.
And he was work in France. He educated in France, and even he worked in America and many countries in the world, and then come back to the people to follow the vision of our Communist Party of Vietnam at that time in 1930. And after that, you mentioned the two important points. The first one is the 1945. We established the Vietnam, nation of Vietnam. And the second one in 1986, we start reform the policy in the country after unification. And there's two points very, very important. And for the relation between the other country in the world, you see the first one I can mention are in the war. We was very losing many people.
Yes.
And we get many helpful support from the Russia, from the China, and from the even other country, French country like Egypt. I never forget a lot of things you give to the Vietnamese people in the war.
Yes.
But in Vietnam we have the pole, like you just mentioned. We put aside the past and we look to the future.
Yes.
So even up to now, we have more than 200 country in the world.
Yes.
Established.
I'd say, one of the most beautiful photographs is the photograph of President Trump, the ex-president of the United States, and the president of Vietnam signing a treaty of trade.
Yeah.
And both of them are standing behind their secretaries of commerce and trade, and it's a famous photograph. And this was just 40 years. Or almost 50 years after the famous statement of Westmoreland. The statement is very strange, but this is something to cherish. 50 years later, Vietnam and the United States are signing a treaty of friendship, not only friendship but economic cooperation.
Economic cooperation, and even you can see. The meeting between the President Trump and President Kim in North Korea in Hanoi.
Yes.
The meeting, bilateral meeting.
Yes.
And we host the meeting for
you
one
hosted
side.
the meeting between North Korea and President Trump.
That is one of the evidence that all the people, the position, political and foreign relation of Vietnam are raised up, and all the many people outside see that Vietnam will have much progress on the international relation.
And also you had joint maneuvers between the Vietnamese and the United States Army. This is really very stimulating. So, so this is very interesting. So the country decided that it's going to turn the page and started economic reform, and the economic reform has changed the face of the country. Yes, a lot of people still are suffering from poverty, but a lot of people has found themselves in a better position, and the economy has improved for them. And still the road is long. So we have different sectors. We'll talk about the different sectors that has seen the reform, but we have also to mention the problem of COVID. So let's start with the agricultural sector, because it has seen its own drawbacks in the late 70s and early 80s, and when starvation was on the edge, and Vietnam was going to starve, and yet it became booming after the improvement of 1986, and it's now the world's largest producer of cashew nuts, with 1/3 global share, the largest producer of black pepper, 1/3 of the world's market, and the second largest rice exporter. Rice is one of the main food material for the Vietnamese. So to be able to feed 96 million people with rice, and at the same time to be the second country in the world exporting this rice, this gives us a hint of how there was a great reform in the field of agriculture. So Tell us about that, how you were able to improve the agriculture in spite of the laws that hindered this. I mean, the communal laws that happened in the 70s after unification, when the pieces of land were nationalized and things were getting very bad. Then you decided to reform. How were you able to fill the gap in just 10 years?
Again, the first thing I can give you, after 30 reform of the economy, because you see Vietnam, 70% of the labor is for the agriculture. And as most of the people are eating the rice.
Yes.
But the population is still, it's not less. It's a very big population in Vietnam right now, nearly 100. So the headache of the government, how to provide enough rice for the people. And besides this, we have the second country to export rice in the world.
Yes.
I think very important thing. The first one is the land. The government decides the land should be given to the people.
Yes.
Not for the government. So you can do by yourself in the land, and you can plant the rice for your family, for your relative. And from that on, all the people are working hard by themselves first. In the early year of the century, the people are working hard enough rice for the family first. And after that, we have what many experience. And we call on from the experience from abroad, come back to Vietnam to have the people to plant the rice, apply with the high technique from some other country, and the number of the rice are increased. They not enough for their themselves, but they have the extra rice for the government to export.
Yes.
That is the first thing I think that is changing in the reform in the system of economy. And the second one is the government, first of all, provide the high tech for the people. Every farmer, every people with the individual company, or even you have the big company, the first thing is the government provide the high tech. So you can follow with the instruction of the government, and so that's why the food is enough for them, and also we get more for export.
So this puts us on the edge of something, because after the unification, a lot of people thought that the North, the Vietnamese, victorious Vietnamese, are going to subdue a lot of revenge to the South Vietnamese, and even the total antagonist opinion said you didn't do that. You didn't do you didn't do any executions. People were allowed to try to match them or integrate them in the society. And you said that you have tried even to import or ask the immigrants who are mostly South Vietnamese to come back and invest in their own country and give products, and you give them security and safety. You didn't tell them that you are going to be tried for what you have done during the war, right?
That is it. That for the people, I can give you the right example for you understand now. Not only for the Vietnamese immigrants outside, but if you now come to Vietnam, you can see a lot of Americans are now working in Vietnam. The Americans are working in Vietnam. Even before they have another frontier with us. But now we come back because that is we have the open policy for the foreign investment, and we not separate the foreigner or the Vietnamese immigrants outside, or even the Vietnamese people. Both of them are the same. We have to give priority the same for investment to Vietnam, especially in some of the special field in economy, like technology, in telecommunication, like in electric equipment, in agriculture and industrial.
So when we talk about that, we have to mention the problem of COVID. We have seen that this is a very glorious accomplishment to have rice and to export it. But during the COVID, how was the agriculture sector affected by the COVID? Was it affected, or you went on working as normal?
Of course, of course. Now we are facing difficult time right now. Even in, but lucky for us, in 2020 we have already signed with the free trade agreement with the EU, with European Union. And in that case, we still export rice, everything to European country. No problem, even for the pandemic. We don't see any problem with this. But of course, for the pandemic economic will be slowed down, because we face some difficulty with the import high tech, with the high technology engineer to come to Vietnam. Or even we have some procedure for the customer, and for the transportation is face difficulty. So that's why the number of the export is go down. But we can provide that in Vietnam, where we get the economic increasing around 5% last year in 2020. So that number is quite good.
That's very much acceptable.
Acceptable. Yeah.
So we'll talk about a sector that definitely was affected from the COVID, and this is a sector that was in the beginning was something new for Vietnam, and that is the tourism sector. People would always think in the 70s, or you tell somebody in the 70s or 80s, go visit Vietnam for tourism, they would say, "Oh, come on! There is Agent Orange, there is war. These are mines. The landscape or the country is totally mined and undetonated objects, and this is totally unsafe domain." And Vietnam worked very hard on the tourism industry, and the aim was reached before 2020 to have 20 million visitors coming not only from the surrounding Chinese, Eastern Asian countries, but also from places from Europe or from the States or from Egypt. You started to have tourists from all over the world. First of all, we want to know, what do people do in tourism? What are the attractions that you have in tourism that brings 20 million people? And then we have to talk about the biggest problem that the whole world, and especially the tourism industry is suffering from, which is the COVID. So tell us what attracts people to Vietnam to see?
We see that we face the very big problem for the tourist industry at this time. Because the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes.
We cannot open for the people right now, for the tourists to go to Vietnam at this time. But before, of course, we have the nearly 20 million people visitor to Vietnam, because we have many kind of tourists. Like Egypt, I think that you have a lot of
things to offer.
Yes, offer. And you have many heritage of the world here. So the people would like to come, but for the tourists in Vietnam, we have many kind of the tourists in that area, and each family can do the tourist business. For example, you can beside the government, the people and the private sector can do, and even for yourself can do. They can open the for the foreigner. Many European people are going to Vietnam, like stay at home with the people, minority people, to do the work, to catch the fish, to plant the tree, to plant the rice, to harvest or something. So that is one kind of the government give for every people can do for tourists. So that is number of people are not visit the heritage. They want to live with the life with the normal people in Vietnam. So that the number of the people who visit Vietnam last year is increased.
But you have a lot also heritage sites which are really very important.
Of course, we have a lot.
In Saigon and in Hanoi.
In Hanoi.
Hanoi is very important.
You have the most beautiful one in Ha Long Bay.
Yes, UNESCO heritage sites are very important in Hanoi.
The unique city in Hue or in Saigon. Of course, some people want to come to see the heritage of the war.
Yes, they want to see the Hilton Hanoi, right?
Yes.
Hanoi Hilton.
To see, right. But you see that most of the visitors to Vietnam from Europe and America, and the second one from China.
Did you build a Hilton in Hanoi or not yet?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Hilton didn't come yet.
Yeah. Only one thing we can remain in Hanoi is the Hilton Hotel. You know the brand name, very famous one. Hilton Hotel. Hilton Hotel is. But we call it not hotel. That is the prison for the American pilot.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. That is we keep it for the.
It's a visiting site, right?
The visiting site, and many Americans come back to Hanoi to see what we do before. Yeah.
And I think also the forest visits and the beach visits are also popular sites for Vietnam, right?
Yes. Yeah, the people are coming because we have the long country. Yeah.
Yes, because even the weather
yes.
difference between Hanoi and
Yes.
Saigon is almost 10 degrees, right?
Yes.
More or less.
For in the north, even now in the north is the winter. But in the south is the summer.
Yes.
So if people want to climb to the mountain with the snow, you can go to the north. At the same time, we go to the south for the beach, for diving, for sailing on the sea.
But for protection causes, you are closing the frontiers since the COVID.
Yes.
So you're not
allowing. We are closing already.
You're not allowing any tourists to come in, right?
Up to now, we're not allowing any tourists anymore.
Yes.
But most of the tourists are now. We encourage the people domestic
visits, right? The Vietnamese. I mean,
Vietnamese,
yes.
For the visitor.
Yes. Yeah. So we have to talk about the health sector. In the 70s and the early 80s, you were having a health problem. You were having tuberculosis on the rise. It was almost becoming an endemic affection in Vietnam. And one of the first reasons for the economic reform was to improve the health sector and to try to treat the people from tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is an ailment that happens maximally in poverty and ill-housed homes. So you did a lot of improvement in this sector, but this sector was definitely hit by COVID. How is it faring? And what are the incidents of COVID-19 in Vietnam nowadays?
The COVID-19 in Vietnam nowadays, the number of the people infected is not much. Up to now, from the beginning of the COVID-19 from Wuhan, we have got the number around 300 people infected. And from the beginning of the COVID-19, the government urgently give the very important measure right away. First of all, we closed the border. And the second one, we stop any international flight. And the third one, we decided all the people will come to Vietnam will be isolated from 40 days. And that is for almost of the year 2020, we have no more people infected with COVID. But nowadays, some of the new type of COVID, we have more than 40 people infected with the new one. But now the government has tried to give the emergency cases to preventing the COVID. Like I think the first ones, because for the government we have experience to encourage the people to do by themselves, to protect by themselves, not for any request from the government. All the people are knowing how to do, like wearing mask, keep distance, and inform to the authority right away if any people come from outside, not declare anything. So that is we think that is we can find out exactly who infected.
So you have a lot of awareness in this direction, right?
Yes, exactly.
So I think there are a lot of things to discuss about Vietnam. We are very happy to have with us His Excellency Ambassador Cong, Ambassador of Vietnam in Cairo. And stay with us after the break. We're coming back. So you're still listening to World of Info, and my name is Dr. Amr Mabrouk. Dua Muhammad is at the control. And today is a beautiful afternoon in Cairo. The weather is lovely. We had some rain, we had some sun, and we had some clouds. And this is totally untypical or atypical from Egypt. But at least you are somewhere in listening to us. And we are still listening to His Excellency Ambassador Kong, giving us a lot of info about his beautiful country, Vietnam. And we have to discuss something which is very important. The war has definitely affected the education, and the continuous bombardment, as people said, should have given you back to the Stone Age, and yet the education definitely was affected. The number of regular schools with all this bombing that happened in the 60s and the early 70s was definitely a lot of destruction, and you faced a lot of problems to do a reform in education. And in order to have a good economy, you have to have a good reform in education. The more educated the people are, the more they will be advanced in whatever they are doing. So it's one of the most important pillars of progress. Tell us about the progress in this sector, especially with the presence of different branches of internal universities, whether these are French, British, or American, and you're allowing all these universities to open and schools to open, beside, of course, the national schools of the country. How much is this affected in the product of human beings who are educated and enlightened, and how much percentage of illiteracy do we have now in Vietnam?
In very important in that education sector, because it's the main for the labor to the country. So that's why we pay more, very much for this field. First of all, I can see that in Vietnam, we allow all of the international organization or any foreign country can open the university in Vietnam. We give the priority, we give the land, we give this materials for open for this. And up to now, we have a lot of American school here in Vietnam, French, and also from Korea, from Japan, and of course German, and some other country. And we are looking now for the people from Egypt can go to Vietnam, because we have already signed the education MOU 2 years ago, concerning about the exchange, the student scholarship between Vietnam and Egypt. Many Vietnamese people are now going to Egypt to learn Arabic.
Really?
Some specific education. And of course, vice versa, the Egyptian people go to Vietnam to learn some of the concerning subject like the technology, because we have the very good one right now in that field, in IT technology.
Yes.
Yeah. And the second, I think that we have, besides the opening the international school, we send a group of people like to Egypt, to another country, to students, to American, to French, and to German. After they graduated, they come back to Vietnam and to have in our government system for proving the economy. So that's the second one. And the third one, of course, we open for the any skill technology engineer go to Vietnam and to work in the government sector, private sector, every sector we can open for the foreigner to work with the good salary and with the good condition. So that's why now I think that that is exactly the way we can get some progress in that education for student and for the people in the education system. And also another one is we now open worldwide with the cooperation on education system with other countries in the world. For exchange scholarship, for exchange the professor, for teaching course, for the engineers or externals to both countries outside and in Vietnam.
But the problem, of course, is now the online teaching. So most of these establishments are going on online teaching, or you are, since you are protecting the country from the entrance of foreigners, you are doing normal scholastic years.
Now, because we have the good success in the to protect with the COVID-19. So up to now, the university or the people can go to school, everything. We're not online. Only if now the people from outside want to apply the job or apply the study course in Vietnam, it should be full of the health service protection and checking system. If he have enough requirement, he can go to Vietnam. Yeah.
So you're opening the gates for foreign students to come and have their education, even in COVID conditions, but you're going to isolate them for 21 days, right?
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah. But our school is open normally.
Yes.
Normally
they're open. Yes. Now we have to talk about industry. And I have my own experience with the Vietnamese industry. Whenever I go to the States, if I go to famous shops, suits or shoes or whatever, and they have these beautiful brands, and I always would examine the jacket or the shoes before buying it, and I find that it was made in Vietnam. Right?
Yeah.
Tell us about this, because I know that there are a lot of factories in Vietnam that are involved in making brands for official brands, not counterfeit. I mean, it's real official. Yes, official ones and the original ones. It's not high copies. The original ones. So, tell us how this started, and how far are you going, and how much is this having its impact on the Vietnamese economy?
The industrialists play very important position in the economic system in Vietnam. And from the beginning, established the country, we lack of the material, and we lack of not only the material, we lack of the engineer, and the people have good skill for this one. So I mentioned for you that the first one, we need to have the labor with high skill, with the engineer with high skill. So we get sent to outside to get to learn from outside, and then after that they come back to Vietnam on the first beginning of century. So a lot of people, we send 200 people, and we only need 10 people come back. It's enough. So that's why that is one of the policy. We send the people to learn outside, and then they come back to have the.
Most of them came back.
Not most, but we don't be afraid of the sending people. Some are not come back because some go outside and work for the foreign country. But of course, in 100 people we send out, 10 people come back. That's okay. That is the way we get the
know-how. And so the technology went on. You were there are factories, the famous factories of shoes.
Yes.
We're not going to say the mark or the brand, but all the brands of the U.S. famous shoes are sports shoes are made in Vietnam. The suits, the shirts, the dresses, the mega markets of all this is work. So we know about the shoes and about the dresses. What type of factories also you have in Vietnam?
You can easily find the nice, the very famous in the sport area. With the brand name Deny, Adidas, or even the suits, many suits from famous one in the world. But we established the factory in Vietnam with the joint venture between Vietnam and foreign country. So the production is product in Vietnam, and after that export to other country. With the techniques from foreigner.
Yes. And the high-tech industry, you're involved as well in it? I mean, like telephones, mobiles, and things like that?
Yeah, exactly. You can find easy in Egypt, in the market. You can see many smartphones made from Vietnam. Even the phone like the Samsung. But you can see made in Vietnam. Because we have cooperation with the Samsung company, and we build up the factory in Vietnam, and we produce the smartphone. under the name of Samsung, but it's made from Vietnam. But now I think the biggest Samsung company is now based in Vietnam. Is now established in Vietnam. Yeah.
So you told me off air that about 1 million Koreans are living in Vietnam, right?
Yes, around. Not exactly number, but it's around 1 million people living in Vietnam.
Working in these industries.
Yes, they're working in many different. Why you see the very famous with the textile in Vietnam. Vietnam have a good chance for the people to do textile because we have the good material. Like in Egypt, I saw you are very famous one good cotton.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So like Vietnam, the same. We have the very good famous material for textile. So the high tech engineering from Korea, they saw this long before, and they come to Vietnam to make the textiles industrial in Vietnam. So we can easily find out many factory under the name of Korea are now in Vietnam to produce the suit, shirts, or many things for the household, and from Korea. But it exactly do in Vietnam. So that's why the number I mentioned for you, around 1 million people living in Vietnam, because that is good chance for the Korean business doing business in Vietnam.
Yes. And also for Japanese people there.
And also the Japanese.
A lot of Japanese industries are working from in Vietnam as well, right?
Yes, also the same.
Mainly in textile and high-tech industries, or what else, sir?
Mainly in textile, high-tech, and now Japanese are small investment in the agriculture field. They're planting some kind of tree in Vietnam and export to other countries in Vietnam. Yeah.
So this is investment in the agriculture. You said to me that 77% of the population is working in the agriculture
field. Yes.
In the agricultural field.
Yeah. So that's why we have getting the top 2 country export rice, and now we are going to the 4 to 5 to export coffee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Coffee is also.
Yeah, also.
It's not Yemeni anymore.
Yes.
Or Brazilian. So after the break, with His Excellency Ambassador Cong, Ambassador of Vietnam in Cairo, we are going to discuss the Egyptian-Vietnamese relations. So stay with us. So, still listening to the World of Info, we had a Vietnamese song, and today we have His Excellency Ambassador Cong, Ambassador of Vietnam in Cairo, and we have to talk about the Egyptian-Vietnamese relations. His Excellency was so kind to remember that Vietnam, as a government, as people, still remember how Egypt, during Nasser and Sadat time, helped Vietnam during its war. And so they maintained a very strong relation. Tell us about the present and the future of this relation, sir.
For one word for the relation between two our countries, I can say that it's a friendship, a long-lasting relation between two our countries. And the first thing for me when I was ambassador here, I never forget anything when Egypt gave for us in the war. Support the people of Vietnam against the invader from other country, and to build up the country as strong as today. And the second one is the Egypt is the first country to recognize Vietnam, our country, in 1963. And follow us, we established the diplomatic relation between two our countries. But before 1963, we already opened the commercial office in Cairo. So that is we have the good political and economic relation for a long time before.
Yes.
And our former President Ho Chi Minh visited Egypt for three trips to Egypt. On the way, he go abroad for seeking the independent for the Vietnamese people. He stopped 3 times in Egypt, and so that all I can tell you that in my mind the people of Egypt are very closely friends with Vietnamese people, and we are now at the top of the good atmosphere for relation between our countries. Especially, I can tell you that 2 visits of the 2 presidents, President Sisi in Vietnam, visit Vietnam in 2017.
Yes.
and our former president visited Egypt in 2018. After 2 visits, we signed at least 40 agreements between our countries. A lot of field. And after 2 visits, I think the relation between our countries has enhanced.
Of course. Presidential visits are very important to let more water flow under the bridges.
Yes.
So tell us about the fields of cooperation. 40 treaties, these were in economic or education or whatever.
In many fields of cooperation on the both country, I can tell you. We have already signed the agreement on agricultural cooperation and the trade promotion between our country, the MOU on petroleum, and we have also have the signing investment between Suez Canal with
Suez Canal authorities
with our Ministry of Investment in Vietnam. Already, and also we have the cooperation agreement on the education, exchange scholarship between our country every year, and we also have the agreement on the air freight, sea freight, transportation on the air and also on the sea, many fields. And I think that now is in 2015 we exchanged a lot of delegation between 2 countries. And we also have the cooperation on the governor level, like Luxor and one of the Luxor city and one with our Ninh Bình province in Vietnam. And even for today, I am now in processing to push a relation between Cairo and Hanoi capital in Vietnam to have the cooperation between 2 countries. So I think the potential cooperation between our countries is very high. And we're looking in the future. We have a lot of things to do, and I hope that's in the near future. Apart from the COVID pandemic, I hope that I can see many businessmen are now investing in Suez Canal and in agriculture field here in Egypt. And of course, we want to send a lot of students to here to learn. With the culture, with the Arabic language, or with the oil exploitation field or gas exploitation, you have the many practice on this field. I want to see.
So the amount of export, is it mainly agriculture or high tech or whatever, or textile?
The most export to Egypt, product from Vietnam as the agricultural product. You can see a lot of
cashew, right?
Yeah, cashew. Then you can see a lot of seafood.
Fish,
also from Vietnam.
Fish is very famous, Vietnamese fish, yes.
And of course, besides this, we have already established the office for rice in Cairo, and now in processing to try to export rice to Egypt. And
Egypt, does it export anything to?
Of course, we a lot of things from Egypt. Also, you very famous with cotton material for textile. We import from Egypt, and also we import from Egypt the fertilizer. And some of the traditional medicine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from Egypt. And of course, the material for the machine also. But the number the number of the commercial exchange between our country around 500 million US dollar per year. It's not high. It's not suitable for the relation between our countries.
Yes.
So that's why we need to
we need to work more on it, right?
More on it. Yes. And we hope that we can reach 1 billion US dollar in the next few years.
Yes. Hopefully during your tenure, sir, here.
Yes, I try.
Well, it's a great pleasure and honor to have you with us here in our radio program. And I want you to promise us that you'll come again to talk about our the beautiful country of yours, Vietnam,
sure.
and the friendship that has been thriving and hopefully getting more to higher levels with the country of Vietnam, the People's Republic of Vietnam. And definitely we had the pleasure and honor to have with us today His Excellency Ambassador Cong. Thank you very much, sir, for coming.
Thank you very much. In Vietnam we have one sentence.
Yes.
You have one hearing 100 times. It's not done one time you visit Vietnam. So that's why I want you or the people hearing me today can one time visit to Vietnam. To see
Yes, the moment you open your borders, we'll be there, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
So this was the World of Info. We had His Excellency Ambassador Cong, Ambassador of Vietnam in Cairo, and my name is Dr. Amr Mabrouk. Dua Muhammad was at the controls. This was World of Info, and hopefully next week we'll be there in the same time, same station, and have a pleasant and beautiful afternoon and a beautiful weekend in Cairo.